what I want to talk about is the cost of mobile. I'm going to burst the bubble here a little bit, and let's focus on that. The future of mobile looks really interesting, really great, really bright, but how affordable is that truly going to be in the future? You know, I think about Yuri's talk, and that was some amazing stuff that him and Russell came up to talk about. But how affordable is it going to be in the future if you can't even afford healthcare now to really get the service that you need? I think the cost of mobile, particularly with smartphones, plays into the digital divide and strengthening and widening that gap that's currently there. So one of the things that I want to talk about, I want to focus on about 4 issues. The cost of devices. So over the years, I've spent over $2,000 on mobile phones in I'd say probably the past 3 to 5 years. And that's pretty expensive. That's a lot for just phones, not including laptops or tablets or anything like that. And the price today for a smartphone is upwards of $400. That's not including the subsidized deals that you get when you're signing up for a new service or something like that. So that's rent in some parts of the world. That's my student loan payment every month. That's groceries for my family, and that's 2 months worth of groceries for me if it's just $400 on a phone, okay? So putting that into perspective, how many people can really afford that in the future? You know, $400 is a lot of money just for one device. And you're not just paying for the device itself, you're also paying for the OS. And for me, I'm going to take it back a little bit. I don't know how many of you remember Windows Mobile before it became Windows Phone 7. But when it was Windows Mobile, one of the things that I hated about Windows Mobile is the fact that for every upgrade that they came out with for the operating system, I literally had to go buy a new phone, unless I wanted to wait for Verizon or AT&T to push out the upgrade, if they had it, for my phone. And that would be accompanied by tons of promises. Oh, we're going to get that out. Years later, still no upgrade here. What do? You go buy a new phone. You know, and there's the operating system upgrades happen usually once a year. That's starting to increase a lot more now. But just keeping that in mind, again, you're spending about $600 every 2 years on the same phone just to be able to keep up with the new features and mobile technologies that continue to come out. So I'm seeing that also with iOS, but in a very different way, where Apple does release their iOS upgrades for free, but the problem is then the phone. Do you have the right device that this particular version of the operating system can actually work on? I remember when I had my 3G and they came out with iOS 4, it completely bricked my phone. I couldn't use it, and I was immediately forced to either continue with a very slow phone or upgrade to the iPhone 4. You know, and of course, I chose the iPhone 4, but fortunately, I had an upgrade available. But what if you don't have an upgrade available? What if you don't have that right around the corner? What if you don't have insurance on the phone, which I'm also seeing a lot more smartphones not have insurance in the way that they used to with the dumb phone, so to speak. If you don't have the money to come out with another $200, what are you going to do? You just go phoneless now? Or do you revert back to the older technology all of a sudden just because you can't pay for it? I think that's a little ridiculous in this day and age. Then, if you're coming in with just a contract or a new line of service, you can get the phone for a much cheaper price now. But contracts, to me, are like loans. You're tied in, you're locked in, there's no flexibility, you're paying on a monthly basis. What if you can't afford that? What if you need a little more flexibility because of your income flow to be able to make the monthly payments in a timely fashion that also works for you? No, there's no solutions for that. And you could get a phone that doesn't have a contract also. Those are available too. But those phones are nowhere near the power and capabilities of the phones that you see that do come with a contract, such as the iPhone or the Android phones. Then you have the credit check. That's another cost. If you don't have good credit, which a lot of people in the world don't, you're paying the full amount. I paid $600 for the first iPhone that I got, which is the iPhone 3G. $600 is rent. That's rent in New York. That's 2 months' rent in Atlanta. It's really, really expensive, so it's a trade-off. Do you want the best phone for a ridiculous price, or do you want a smartphone that's relatively cheap and can do the basics? So that's something else to keep in mind. Last but not least, you have the internet access, which a lot of people, even if you could get that iPhone for a relatively cheap price, you're still not only paying for a phone bill, but you're also paying for the internet, the data package on top of it. So in the end, you end up spending about $1,000 total on just 1 month for one phone. It's pretty ridiculous. You know, that could be going towards college tuition for kids instead. I think that's pretty crazy. Coming here overseas, the data package for just 200 megabytes was $200 for AT&T. $200, that's more than what I do pay on the phone bill on average, even with the data package that I have now. And I think that's something that we really needed to consider in the future for people who don't, who could really use the access that these mobile technologies provide within the devices that are out today. They cost a ridiculous amount of money. You need a contract. If you break that contract and want to get out early, that costs a fee also. You're still paying a bill on top of it. If you don't want a contract, you have to settle for less. I think these are all issues that in the future we would really need to address as a whole, because right now, in my opinion, mobile is still a luxury for a lot of us. You know, it's something that we go on and on about, we talk about it, we check in on Foursquare, we tweet, we Facebook, and it's all from our phone, but most people can't even afford that. You know, so I think we could really come together and start brainstorming, talking about solutions for making those costs lower, but still making that technology more accessible in the future. Thank you.